Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. South Korea's industrial output dropped for 3 straight months in July. Poor production in the semiconductor and vehicle sectors dragged down the figure. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reaffirmed Washington's commitment to achieving the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula during his visit to China this week. Eyes are on whether a summit between the leaders of the U.S. and Beijing could happen before Biden's term ends. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a temporary humanitarian pause to the war in Gaza to allow for the vaccination of children against polio. South Korea's economy is facing headwinds as industrial production fell for the 3rd straight month. Manufacturing, particularly in the semiconductors and automobiles, has been hit hard. Our Moon Hae-ryun starts us off.
South Korea's industrial production contracted for 3 consecutive months, reflecting sluggish domestic demand. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Friday, industry production decreased by 0.4% in July compared to the previous month. After a 1.4% increase in April, industry production has been on a downward trend, declining by 0.8% in May and 0.1% in June. A breakdown of the data showed that production in certain sectors such as public administration and services showed an increase, but production in manufacturing shrunk significantly. Mining and manufacturing production overall fell by 3.6% from the previous month, marking the largest drop since December 2022. Manufacturing production alone showed a downswing of 3.8% due to dwindling semiconductor and automobile production. Semiconductor production decreased by 8% and automobile production decreased by more than 14%, with the latter being the largest drop since May 2020. The downswing was attributed to factors including labor strikes at auto parts companies and is likely to be a temporary downturn.
Due to the record-high semiconductor production last month, we can expect a base effect. Nevertheless, the semiconductor industry remains strong, driven by demand for IT devices and growth in AI-related sectors.
Retail sales, which indicate trends in goods consumption, also decreased by 1.9%. After declining in April and May and rebounding in June, retail sales declined again in July, showing a volatile trend. Facility investment, on the other hand, increased by more than 10% for the 2nd consecutive month, driven by the transportation sector. The government plans to accelerate efforts to revitalize the domestic economy by swiftly implementing key policies from its Chuseok livelihood stabilization measures, including boosting domestic tourism and providing 3 types of tax incentives to stimulate consumption. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The number of new businesses started in South Korea fell in the first half of the year. Data from the Ministry of SMEs and Startups on Friday shows that the number of new businesses came to a little more than 622,000. That's down 4.3% on-year in the first 6 months of the year. The drop was mostly led by the number of new real estate businesses falling nearly 9% on-year due to the slump in the real estate sector. The ministry said the downturn in the global economy, as well as prolonged high interest rates domestically, also led to the fall. Next year's budget for our foreign affairs sector will likely be focused on South Korea, increasing its contributions on the global stage and more. Our foreign affairs correspondent, Pae-eun-ji, has the details.
The Foreign Ministry unveiled the details of its budget proposal for next year on Thursday, saying that it plans to focus spending on hosting the APEC Summit, increasing official development assistance, and providing more funding to international organizations. In total, the ministry seeks to spend around 4.3 trillion Korean won next year, or about $3.2 billion. That's around a 3% increase compared to this year. This includes a budget of more than 100 billion Korean won, or nearly $74 million, to further prepare for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit that'll be held in November next year in Gyeongju City in the southeast. The proposed amount is nearly 40 times higher than this year's budget of 2.5 billion won. Next year's APEC Summit will mark the first time in 20 years that South Korea is holding the event, after the country hosted it back in 2005 in Busan. As for its spending on official development assistance, the ministry set aside 2.8 billion Korean won, which is a little more than $2 billion US. That's around 2% higher compared to last year. In line with the country's vision to become a global pivotal state, it also seeks to raise its contributions to international organizations. It has proposed to spend 826 billion Korean won, or nearly $620 million in this field, up 15% from this year's spending. Also, the ministry allocated 6.9 billion Korean won to prepare for the South Korea Central Asia Summit that is planning to host next year. It explained that this event is in line with the country's so-called K-Silk Road initiative, laid out when President Yoon Suk-yeol visited 3 Central Asian countries in June. 배은지, Arirang News.
The U.S. National Security Advisor wrapped up his trip to China, where he emphasized the U.S. commitment to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Now, this marks the first visit to China by a U.S. National Security Advisor since 2016. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan reaffirmed Washington's commitment to complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula during his talks with his Chinese counterparts in Beijing. The remarks were made at a press conference on Thursday as Sullivan wrapped up his 3-day visit to China. It also came amid concerns over the lack of reference to denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula from both U.S. Democratic and Republican parties at the recent national conventions. Sullivan also stressed the importance of maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait and that Washington's One China policy has not changed. High-level talks were held between the two countries to seek stability in their relations. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Sullivan on Thursday and expressed hope that the U.S. would work with China to get along.
Although great changes have taken place in the respective conditions of the two countries and in China-US relations, China's commitment to the stable, sound and sustainable development of China-US relations remains unchanged.
Sullivan told Xi that U.S. President Joe Biden was committed to managing Washington-Beijing ties to avoid conflict. The effort comes ahead of the upcoming U.S. presidential election.
We are committed to maintaining high-level diplomacy, and to this end, President Biden looks forward to engaging with you again in the coming weeks.
The U.S. official hinted that Biden and Xi plan to speak over the phone in the coming weeks and possibly meet in person at APEC and the G20 summits slated for November. Sullivan arrived in Beijing on Tuesday on a 3-day visit, marking the first trip by a U.S. National Security Advisor in 8 years. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Millions of people have been evacuated in Japan as the massive Typhoon Shanshan made landfall in the country on Thursday. The 10th typhoon of the season has killed at least 3 people. Lee Seung-jae has more.
In what's being dubbed one of the strongest typhoons to hit the country, Typhoon Shanshan made landfall in Japan on Thursday, causing massive damage and the evacuation of millions of residents across the southern part of the country. A special warning was issued by the Japan Meteorological Agency on Wednesday before the typhoon made landfall, marking the first time such a warning was issued in 2 years. A special warning is issued when there's significant risk from a major disaster. The strong winds and torrential rain also knocked out power in many regions, while halting air traffic and closing major automobile factories run by Toyota, Nissan, and Honda. The typhoon has also taken the lives of at least 3 people and injured dozens more. 2.25 million residents have also been evacuated to further mitigate casualties. The Japanese Weather Agency said the typhoon brought winds with speeds of up to 180 kilometers per hour, strong enough to blow over a truck. The typhoon is expected to bring up to 400 millimeters of rain in a 24-hour period from Thursday in some regions. The weather agency expects accumulated rainfall to be significantly higher, as the slow-moving storm is forecast to continue to wreak havoc throughout the weekend. With this, an evacuation order has been issued to over 5 million residents nationwide. Typhoon Shanshan follows Typhoon Ampil, which made landfall in Japan earlier this month and left 5,000 homes without power. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Israel and Hamas have agreed to temporarily suspend some military operations in Gaza so that polio vaccines can be administered safely. The two sides have agreed to a 3-day pause in 3 zones that could be extended to 4 days if necessary in order to protect 650,000 Palestinian children there. Our Yinjin reports.
On Thursday, the World Health Organization said that the Israeli military and Palestinian militant group have agreed to pauses in fighting in Gaza to allow the administering of polio vaccines to some 640,000 children under the age of 10. Starting on September 1st, the pause will take place in 3 separate stages over 3-day periods. Vaccinations will first be administered in the central Gaza region for 3 days, followed by South Gaza and then North Gaza. Each phase of the vaccination campaign is expected to take around 7 hours between the hours of 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. local time.
Without humanitarian pauses, as we call it as the UN, a campaign delivery, which is already implemented in incredible, constrained, complex environments, will not be possible. So I want to continue a little bit in response to this commitment of this area-specific humanitarian pauses. So it has been agreed that the campaign will be delivered in a phased approach over 3 days. So
Rick Pieperkorn, the World Health Organization's representative for the West Bank and Gaza, said that the two sides have also agreed to extend the pause to a 4th day if necessary in each zone. He added that it would be a 2-round vaccination campaign with a 4-week interval between the first and second doses. 1.26 million doses of polio vaccines have already arrived in Gaza. On August 23rd, the WHO confirmed that at least 1 baby had been paralyzed by the type 2 polio virus, which makes it the first such case in the region in 25 years. A Hamas official said that they were ready to cooperate with international organizations in support of the vaccine campaign for the more than 650,000 Palestinian children. And the Israeli military's humanitarian unit said that the vaccination campaign would be conducted in coordination with the Israeli military. Health experts say that at least 90% of coverage is needed during each round of the campaign in order to stop the outbreak and prevent the international spread of polio. 이은진, Arirang News.
South Korea has secured at least 2 bronze medals in the men's doubles table tennis at the 2024 Paris Paralympics. Korea's 2 teams, one of Cha Soo-young and Park Jin-chul and the other of Chang Young-jin and Park Sung-ju, have both won their quarterfinals and advanced to the semifinals. Cha and Park secured a 3-0 victory over an Italian team, while Chang and Park defeated a British team by the same score. There is no bronze medal playoff in the Paralympics, so both losing semifinalists are guaranteed a bronze medal. Now, if both Korean teams win their semifinal matches against Slovakia and France on Friday, they'll face each other in the final. Now, on the cultural front, a unique musical journey is taking place here in Korea, where an audience can enjoy music from all around the world. Our Iuni met with artists performing cross-cultural music.
Noder Island in Seoul's Yongsan-gu district is the place to be for anyone looking to take a global musical journey. Co-hosted by the Korea Foundation and the Embassy of Colombia in Korea, the 2024 Public Diplomacy Rhapsody, VI Voyage, held on August 28th and 29th, brings together artists and music from all around the world.
If you're interested in cross-cultural sounds, you won't want to miss this 2-day event. With artists from Colombia, Morocco, Egypt, Pakistan, and South Korea, the concert provides a unique opportunity to enjoy diverse musical traditions.
Tal is an experimental music group that reinvents Pakistan's Qawwali, a form of Islamic devotional singing rooted in Sufi traditions, by blending it with Korean folk music.
We wanted to give the audience a sense of traveling, even though we're here at Noder Island in Seoul. By listening to their music, we hope the audience will explore new cultures.
His voice was really nice.
Yes, it's a voice that kind of gives you joy and makes you hype.
Yeah, and we tried to dance a little bit.
Next up, the journey heads to Africa. Dressed in traditional Moroccan attire, the band Omar and Eastern Power features members from South Korea, Morocco, and Egypt.
Our band has a distinctive sound that we believe is truly unique, and this is a major source of our strength. The blend of different cultural backgrounds within our group comes across in our music, giving us a powerful edge.
Salsa Groove, with their adventurous Colombian sounds, blends Cuban, Latin American, and classic salsa with electronic elements.
Our music preserves the spirit and roots of traditional styles, while also conveying a message of innovation and change.
For the audience, it's a chance to connect with and appreciate each other's cultures.
And she told me like there's like this festival where there's gonna be a Colombian. Do you want to go with me? And I said yes, because at the end it's like even if the country is different, I'm able to get a connection with Latin roots and everything.
While I listen to a lot of mainstream music, it's not easy to find these kinds of unique sounds elsewhere. It's a pleasure to discover new music and engage with so many cultures.
VI Voyage shows that despite varying melodies, rhythms, and musical roots, music can transcend borders. 이은희, Arirang News.
A growing number of people in South Korea's rural areas are having difficulty accessing food. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin tells us about the business model being used to address this problem.
It's early in the morning, but this supermarket manager's day has already begun. He's busy adding items into a cart at a supermarket in a rural area of Pocheon City in northern Gyeonggi-do province. Many of the area's residents are living in what is called a food desert, where people have limited access to healthy and affordable food. The groceries are loaded into this mobile supermarket truck named Happy Market, which will head to food deserts in the area.
Many villages lack even basic stores, and food deserts are increasing as businesses avoid or fail in areas with declining populations and low purchasing power.
Data from the Agriculture Ministry shows that more than 73% of rural communities nationwide are food deserts. And for most residents of these rural communities, mainly senior citizens, buses are their only mode of transportation.
The interval for cheaper buses is around 30 minutes, so if you end up missing one, it'll take around 40 minutes just to get to a store.
He says that all 3 corner stores that used to be in the village are now gone.
Independently owned corner stores were unable to make a profit. This was the last one, but it also closed down.
This is why residents regard Happy Market as an oasis in a food desert, particularly since it visits 3 villages daily, Monday to Friday.
우리 마을에 서울농협 마트차가 도착했습니다. 오셔서 구경하세요.
Inside the truck are groceries that residents ordered just by texting the manager, ranging from snacks to flour and fruits. But for the elderly, the most valuable service is a manager's doorstep delivery, a rare luxury in food deserts without access to standard delivery options, a reality that's hard to believe in the age of quick commerce.
This makes life easier for old people like me. I'm always very thankful.
While it can be challenging, especially in the heat, the manager says it's worth it.
I now know most of the elders. They're like family to me.
And it's this sentiment that creates an effective food oasis business model. With South Korea's food desert dilemma expected to worsen due to its aging population, mobile trucks like this will hopefully soon be available to all those needing them. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Let's move on to the world now. French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Paris on Thursday local time, marking Starmer's first visit to France since taking office. The leaders' agenda includes talks on the conflict in the Ukraine, tensions in the Middle East, the UK's relationship with Europe, and French-British bilateral ties. This visit follows Starmer's trip to Berlin on Wednesday, where he and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz agreed on a treaty focused on defense and trade. signalling a reset of the UK's relations with the EU after the 2020's Brexit. Starmer, who took office last month, has made improving ties with Europe a key part of his strategy to revive Britain's economy. In Paris, he also attended the Paralympics opening ceremony and is set to meet with business executives. In Thailand, the son of Spanish actor Rodolfo Sancho was jailed on Thursday for the gruesome murder of a Colombian man last year on the island of Koh Phangan. Daniel Sancho was convicted of premeditated murder and concealing the body of plastic surgeon Edwin Arrieta Arteaga in August 2023. However, Sancho denied the murder was premeditated and said that it was an act of self-defense. Sancho, who was on holiday at the time of the incident, dismembered the victim's body and distributed the body parts around the island. The Thai court originally sentenced Sancho to death, but that was reduced to life imprisonment as he cooperated with authorities. Sancho was also ordered to pay the family of the victim a sum of equal to around $130,000 in compensation. Swedish pop group ABBA have asked former US President Donald Trump to stop using their music and videos for his campaign rallies for the upcoming 2024 presidential election. The songs The Winner Takes It All, Money, 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 and Dancing Queen were used at a rally in Minnesota on July 27th. The band's label said that no permission or license had been given to the Trump campaign and that it had asked for the immediate removal from further use on the campaign. ABBA aren't the first artists to deny Trump use of their songs. Artists including band REM and singers Tom Petty and Adele have all denied Trump rights to use their songs. In Monaco on Thursday local time, footballers Cristiano Ronaldo and Gianluigi Buffon received awards at the UEFA Champions League 2024-25 draw ceremony. Portuguese captain Ronaldo was awarded for being the all-time Champions League top goalscorer. He scored 140 goals during his time with teams such as Manchester United, Real Madrid and Juventus. Gianluigi Buffon received the President's Award, an award that recognizes the goalkeeper's legendary career. Walter Lee, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Due to the indirect effect of Typhoon Shanshan that made landfall in southern Japan, parts of the East and South Seas continue to see rough weather with high seas advisories. And easterly winds are bringing rough seas to the eastern regions, while a strong wind advisory remains in place for Ulleungdo and Dokdo, as well as areas near Busan. Along with the wind, there will be 5 to 30 millimeters of rainfall in east coast areas throughout the day today. So the wind and rain will keep the East Coast regions bearable in the mid-20s, but midsummer level heat continues in the west, with Seoul and Gwangju expected to see a high of 34 degrees Celsius again this afternoon, and Daejeon also top out at 34 degrees under sunny skies in the central areas, and Busan gets up to 32 degrees. Now, the first week of September looks more promising, with mornings and evenings feeling more like autumn. That's Korea for you. Here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.